What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel, Wealth Hacker Labs. As you can see, we have another edition of the Wealth Board. This time we're doing MrBeast style. So for those that are newer to YouTube, you may have heard about this guy named MrBeast. And if you're on YouTube and you never have, then I seriously question, where have you been? So this guy definitely is like the YouTube sensation. At the time of this recording, he has just under 30 million subscribers, and I'm sure by the time you watch this, he'll have over 30 million. And one of the ways that he has grown so much attention is that he has done all these challenges. He's also given away tons of money. He has an awesome charity foundation going on right now where they are raising money to plant all these trees. I think at this time it's planted over 20 million, maybe 21 million. I mean, it's a good dude, but recently I just did a reaction video because in his most recent challenge, a guy by the name of Mark won this $1 million. And one of the stipulations, I'm assuming, of winning this $1 million challenge is that he had to spend it all within a 24-hour period. And if you could watch my reaction video, I reacted to that. And at the end of that video, I talked a little bit about just what he spent his money on and maybe some of the things he could have done differently, but I recognize I didn't really dive into the numbers. And what I want to do today is do just that. But before I get onto that, I do want to say that I'm not here to bash MrBeast. I mean, the guy has done some amazing things. And just to show my appreciation before doing this video, I went ahead and donated $1,000 to plant 1,000 trees as part of his hashtag Team Tree project that he's working on. And so I'm a huge supporter. The reason for me wanting to respond to this was seeing this guy, Mark, win $1 million. And at the end of it, he just bought a lot of material things, a lot of material possessions. And it just irked me, being a financial planner for 16 years, also coming from a background where, I pretty much grew up poor. My parents didn't have any money. And if I would have had some of these lessons earlier on in life, like it would have made me that much more money. Now I'm grateful I am where I am, but someone like Mark could have benefited from a little bit more investment information. And Mark's not the only person, that would benefit from this. I've seen so many situations where people have either inherited a lot of money or came across, won a big chunk of money, and they are pretty much broke, within a short amount of time. And in fact, just doing some research for this video, it shows that 1 out of every 3 people that inherit any amount of money, within 2 years or less, they're broke. They actually have negative savings. They actually have negative money after inheriting money. After 2 years later, you inherit a big chunk of money and you actually have negative savings in 2 years. There's another stat that says 70% of those that win the lottery or just come across a big chunk of money are more likely to file bankrupt in 3 to 5 years. And that's because when you don't have the education behind in receiving a lump sum of money, I mean, you just don't know what to do with it, and you don't know what to do with it, and all of a sudden now you're just blowing it. I mean, you see that with lotto winners, you see that with athletes, professional athletes that will make 50, 80 million in their career and they've got nothing to show for it. So that's why I wanted to do this video. So for those that aren't familiar with the 24-hour challenge, you take a look. It's a great video, and I couldn't think of a better person to receive the money. Mark, he didn't come from anything. He had this beater of a car. He had a house that he was sharing like with his family, and there were so many people in this crammed up house, and he was very humble and appreciative of winning this money. So I do want to give him credit for that. So how did this all play out? So as I mentioned, so he won this $1 million prize. Awesome. I mean, that is pretty freaking awesome. With this challenge, I'm assuming, I guess, had to give $100,000 to his challenge coach. And this guy, his name was Chandler. So he gave him $100,000. In addition to that, he gave $50,000 to another contestant. I didn't really watch all the challenge, so I think maybe he was a good guy and he was just doing a nice thing. So in fact, Mark did not receive that full $1 million. He actually got $850,000. Now with that, that's still a very good chunk of money. Now, the one thing that I did like in the video is that MrBeast and his posse, his crew, did take some time to talk about taxes, and I think they even set aside some of the spendings towards some of the other well, you'll find out like what he bought. So they did talk about taxes, and they did account for about 40% to save for taxes, which end up being $340,000. So after all said and done, Mark had $510,000 left to spend. And spend he did. Not just one trip, but 2 trips to Best Buy, which included every electronic you would ever want. He also bought some appliances. He also bought some other, I think, some furniture. He bought a wedding ring for his wife. He gave money to his mom and his mother-in-law. Like, I mean, you love your mom. That's great. But probably the biggest purchases that hurt me the most was the cars. So Mark bought and I don't think they were brand new. I think it was a Yukon, could have been a Denali. Also bought a BMW. I don't know what series, but I know that he spent $100,000 on just those 2 cars alone. And Mark, if you're watching this, I mean, check this out. Like, I am a millionaire. I'm a multimillionaire, and you actually are driving about the same cars, if not nicer cars than I have. Just to kind of put that in perspective. So $100,000 on 2 cars. The other big purchase was a house, and the house was for $165,000. Now, the house doesn't hurt me as much, but it's still the fact that he's paying everything in cash. And once again, that could have been one of the stipulations of this challenge. But even in the video, MrBeast talked about how he wanted to talk to Mark about investing in, and I'm not sure, I know he mentioned it at least twice in that video, maybe a 3rd time. And all said and done, after Mark bought the appliances and electronics and the cars and the house, what he ended up having left over was $75,000. And between that, I think he said he was going to put $25K in savings, and he was going to invest $50,000. And I mean, this is, it just hurts. It hurts that he got $1 million, and after all that said and done, $75,000 is used for the future. Yes, I guess you can throw the house in there. I mean, that's legitimate. But everything else was just left for material possessions. And knowing that, especially like the iPads and the MacBooks and the iPhones, all of that in 2 years, like, they're going to be obsolete. You're going to have to upgrade. You're going to have to, spend more money to keep them up to date. I mean, material possessions, they're great in the moment, but within a few weeks, a few months, I mean, they've lost their luster. Whereas having money to invest, it's actually going to pay off dividends and give you money as you go along. Like, that's powerful. But once again, like, Mark didn't have that education, similar. I'm sure his parents didn't teach him, like my parents didn't teach me. I had to learn on my own. So what I wanted to do today is just kind of give a different perspective on how he could have invested that money, and to show just some pretty crazy numbers so you can see. And there's a ton of different ways that we can do this. So I'm just going to break down some of the numbers that I have here for you. So Mark had $510,000 in theory, to invest. So the $340,000, it really wasn't talked about. But this is something that you can't avoid. I mean, you can't avoid paying tax on that. I mean, there's a few things you can do after the fact, but you still have to pay the tax. But I'm assuming that Mark received this, last calendar year. So you have to file your taxes. He could file a tax return, but you still are expected to pay, what that appropriate tax is. Either way, he could have stuck this in a high yield savings account. There are tons out there. I've mentioned Marcus from Goldman Sachs, and I think the time of this recording, it's paying about 1.6 to 1.9%. So sticking it in a high yield savings account, could have generated an extra, let's just say, $2,000, maybe $3,000 until you actually had to pay the IRS. So sometimes people will just, take some money, just stick it in any sort of savings account, make nothing, and then file your taxes. Well, you could actually put it in, make some interest while you have it, and then whenever you have to pay, you can pay then, and then you can take out whatever the accrued interest that you earned. That wasn't mentioned at all, and I hope that Mark was able to do that, because that's just adding more money to what he already won. So what I did was looking at the cars and the house. I mean, that's fine. If we want to buy 2 cars for $100,000, what I started looking at is, what if we actually financed some of this? And I know for many of you, especially if you were a Dave Ramsey fan, you would be like, wait, so you're suggesting to take on debt? That this guy just won $1 million and you want him to take on debt instead of just paying it off? And yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So if you could actually invest this money and use the interest and the earnings to start making payments on things that you are purchasing within reason, then you still have the principal left and it could continue to grow. So when I start looking at the numbers of financing the $100,000 for 2 cars, so we're financing $100K, assuming about a 4% interest rate over a 5-year note or 60 months, you're looking approximately at a payment of $1,842 per month. Almost 2 G's a month for 2 cars. I mean, just to give you an idea, like, this is what happens when you're buying cars that are probably more than what you should be getting, but whatever, that's a whole other video. And then looking at the home purchase. Now, I do want to assume that we're not going to finance the entire thing. I think this was in the state of Ohio or North Carolina. I'm not sure which one. Depending on what loan he could qualify for. A FA loan, USDA loan. I saw anywhere from a 3% down payment. Let's go ahead and assume a 10% down payment. So we're putting 10% down. So we got $16,500 that we were putting down, and then we are financing the rest. Interest rates, I think for a 30-year mortgage, we're between that 3 to 4% range. I think it was 3.75 is what I ended up using. And his monthly payment for this house would have been $746.50. So if we add both of these 2 payments together, we've got $1,842 for the cars, we got $746 for the house. And between those, the payments would be $2,588.50. Yes, so there are other factors here. We do have just maintenance on the home. We got repairs on the home. You've got insurance. I mean, there are other factors here, but I just want to show you some examples of, if we were to finance realistically, about what is this going to be. Now, here's the one, and this is probably the hardest concept for most people to comprehend and understand, especially if you've never invested. So I just want to give some simplistic examples of, what happens if we would take this money and instead of paying things outright, if we were just to finance that and then start investing the rest. So we've got, once again, $510,000. I'm gonna go ahead and knock off $10,000 considering we're doing 10% down for the home. So we'll start at $500,000 to invest. Now, for those that are familiar with what happened in the market last year, we had one of the best markets we've had in several years. And we were up between 29, 33%, depending if you're looking for dividend reinvestment. Let's go and make it easy, 30% return. So if, hypothetically, if Mark were to invest $500,000 at the beginning of 2019, write it out till the end, he would have made a $150,000 return. So now he's got $650,000 that he can now, in theory, if he just sat on that money for a year, invested it, and then pulled it out to pay for the cars, pay those outright, use some more for the down payment, But I get it. I mean, we're talking hypotheticals here. We're talking the fact that for somebody that's never invested in the market, are they really going to take a $500,000, invest it, and sit on it for a year? And is 2019 going to happen again where we see 30% return? So maybe something a little bit more realistic. So what if we did this? We invested $500,000 and we started drawing out $2,500 per month to take care of the car payment, take care of the house payment. And if we averaged a modest 6% return after a 5-year period, you would have, or Mark would have, about $512,000. So think about that for a second. Had $500,000, we've invested that, making a modest 6%. We're taking out $2,500 a month. And after 5 years, you have now paid off the cars, you've paid off a good chunk of the home, and you have $512,000 left over. I mean, so you've basically made money in that period. So this is what I wish would have been talked about more, in that video. Using some similar numbers, let's say we just increase the return to 8%. Now, instead of $512,000, we're going to have $574,000. $574,000 if we just made 2% more return. And just because I like to have fun and do some numbers and do some crunching, so what if Mark were to do this exact same thing where we're taking out $2,500 a month and we do this for the next 20 years and we're still making that 8% return? How much do you think Mark would have? And before I answer that, I'm curious, if you're still here, how much do you think Mark would have 20 years after receiving this money, investing it? We're taking out $2,500 a month and we averaged 8% return. Well, if you don't have your financial calculators handy, let me go ahead and help you out here. So at the end of 20 years, Mark would have had $1,030,301. So over $1 million 20 years later. And he's still pulling money out to pay for some material possessions. I mean, yes, we could have pulled some money out to buy other things and he could have less than that. But the point that I just want to drive home is that Mark actually, after 20 years, could have pulled out a big chunk of money and actually had the $1 million that he won in the contest 20 years later. But because of just the joy, the excitement, maybe it was the stipulations of having to spend all of this money in a 24-hour period, Mark has $50,000 that he's going to invest with $25,000 in savings. And that's just, it's hard. It's hard to see that. It's hard. And once again, I know that this challenge changed Mark's life. Like, there's no doubt that this changed his life and changed his life more than I think any of us could ever truly understand. But here's just another piece that could be added that could change his life, not just today for all the things that he got and for the new house, but man, we're talking about generational wealth here. But it just takes with some education, meeting, with a financial professional. And I know in the video they talked about they want to try to meet with a financial professional, and I guess they couldn't record. And for those that want to go ahead and share this with MrBeast, hey, MrBeast, I would love to talk with any of your future contestants, any of your challengers that win, a mega prize, because I would love to show them a way that they could win money from your challenge, buy some stuff, change their life, but also have money left over 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now. I mean, that's what we're talking about, because man, like if 20 years Mark were to wake up and say, man, I still have, $500,000, $700,000 or $1 million left over from the MrBeast challenge that I won, and I was able to get cars and a house and all this stuff, like that would be an even more awesome story to share. All right, y'all, hope you enjoyed me diving into some numbers. There's also a few good videos. Check out Graham Stephan, also Meet Kevin. They did a similar type analysis of this, and they both offer some really good perspectives on some different ways that you can look at it. And just really glad to share this and hope that it was impactful for you. And if you are one of the lucky ones to win a MrBeast challenge, or if you win the lotto, or if you got rich parents or grandparents and you get a big chunk of money, file some of this away so that you can have wealth, not just for today, but also for the future. If you found any value in this, be sure to like, subscribe, share with anybody else that needs to hear and see this. My name is Jeff Rose. This is Wealth Hacker Labs, and reminding you that it's your money, it's your life, and only you can make it awesome. Peace.